G'day my friends, Marty Ware here from the Marty's Garden Show, and today I've got something very interesting for you. Yes, it's part 2 of Can You Grow Plants in 100% Worm Castings. It's a subscriber video, and these plants have been growing for about a week now, and I'll be doing a few little other bits and bobs. So check it out, you're going to see how they're coming along, and learn a few other things along the way. Subscribe to watch more videos about compost worms, organic gardening, and growing the best freshest food at home. And remember to click that bell button in the subscribe area so you don't miss any of my videos. So do you remember the little plants that I was showing you? Well, have a look at this tomato. This was one of the ones that I was showing you at the beginning, and it was only a little seedling about the size of this one at the time, and so it's done pretty well in about a week. Really, we had a bit of a hot run, it's a hot day, so just getting morning sun. But the stem, look at the colour in the stem there, if you can see how pink and beautiful that is, and the health and vitality in this plant is what really blows me out, and that's where I believe worm castings really come into their own. Now this guy obviously won't go into a bigger pot full of worm castings, it's going to go into compost and more worm castings. We also had two little other basil plants, and so this one here, that's a Thai basil, and there's a little basil that popped up as well just after that, and that's a sweet basil, and there's the other little Thai basil right here. And again, the vitality, the colour, the aroma, really good, and not too bad for like a week's growth. So look, really, if you've only got worm castings and you haven't sifted them, you can actually start straight in this. Now the microgreens, they haven't really grown that much, a bit, and I've got some others that I'm harvesting from, and so there's the pink kale there, and remember that fell over in the worm farm, and I saved that again and replanted it in the 100% worm cast, and look, they're ready to go, and they're going to taste really great, and the rocket as well. So I've got other rocket growing in a mix, a blend of compost and worm cast, and they're about 3 or 4 days older, and they're actually a little bit bigger than that, so it goes to show that it's not always the perfect medium. One thing that's really impressive though is this Ceylon spinach. They also call it Malabar spinach. Now I found these seedlings growing underneath the mother plant, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this a little bit further and see how these guys go. Now the first few days, they were looking a bit sort of like struggling, and I was really worried about it. I thought they're not gonna do real good. And then we had these hot days, I put the water in, and they just absolutely went burko in this stuff. And look, they need to grow in the tropics. They need really hot weather, hot climate to produce well. But it's autumn here, and I've got them on the tiles, and the tiles get quite warm, so it's heating up the pot. And there's a lot of reflection from the light coming off the wall. So I don't know, maybe I might be able to grow these through, and I'm going to keep these in this pot because I'm just loving what's going on here. Now I want to show you another thing. These are tumbler cherry tomatoes. Now they're not growing in 100% worm casting, guys. These are just in like a mix of my compost, and then I've got some perlite, a mix of perlite, and then I've also put in like worm casting in it. And now these are about a week younger than that other plant that you saw, and they're about the same size, but they're all in there together. There's like 7 plants in there, and what you do with the tumblers is the cherry tumblers, they're a determinate tomato, so you can put like 4 or 5 in one pot, a big pot, and just let them spill over the side as long as your pot's got a bit of height. Great early season tomato and late season tomato, this one. Really tough type of cherry tomato, good flavour, very prolific. This is my 3rd generation growing these ones now. Just absolutely love these, and I'm not going to pull these out of this pot. They're going into a bigger pot. so I can have cherry tomatoes like going into late autumn and maybe even into winter if I'm lucky. Now remember this little fella? That was the chocolate mint, and it actually did shoot out some little plants out from underneath there, and it's hasn't really grown that much, but it's interesting to see that it stayed alive actually, and it's still looking fairly healthy, good colour and stuff, and you could pick a few leaves off and make a chocolate mint tea. But it's just in the water, and I haven't changed the water from the casting, so interesting to see. Now I've done the same with some kangkong, and I've done this before, but I've just never shown it in a video, so hang on here while I grab this kangkong and I'll show you. Now these have been in the water about 4 to 5 days now, and they get these amazing, like the roots. If you do this, it's a great experiment to show kids how fast these guys can grow. The roots are just absolutely amazing. That's 4 days growth. So we can see if we can get that round. I'll spin that round if we can get a better shot on that. You can see those roots coming down there, 4 days old, and there's some castings down below, and the coloration is from the worm castings. This is kangkong, and it strikes straight in water. You can grow it in pots in the ground. Wonderful plant. Just be careful, some places that it's known as an invasive species, so you've got to be a bit careful of that. But in Australia, totally fine. So this is my plant. It's called the betel plant, or betel, and it's nothing to do with betel nut, and it's related to the pepper. And this is the one they use in Thailand and Vietnam to make wraps and things out of. In India they make teas out of it. It's like a ceremonial drink. It's very, the health properties I reckon are amazing. And in Asia they grow it in the shade underneath bamboo slats. Now I've got it here in the morning sun, and each little runner comes out, can be cut off and made into a little plant. So I've probably got 4 or 5 plants there, and I've got 2 or 3, 4 runners running out. So I've got 10 plants coming out of this, and I really love Asian greens, and I'm right into the healthy side of eating foods just like this. Now this is growing in worm castings and compost, and it's doing really well, and it just goes to show that you can grow 100% organically in containers. I just love the idea of using worm castings in my garden, that organic product that I used from the very beginning, making it, then putting it in my plants and seedlings and growing it right through. It's like the beginning to end of it all. You're hands-on and doing everything, and even breeding your own worms and the whole lot. It's really very cool. Now, if you're using worm castings in your garden, or you're thinking about using it, let me know in the question box down below. I'd really love to hear how you're using it, or how you're thinking about implementing and using them in the future. Now, I'm Marty Ware from Marty's Garden. I've got tons and tons of videos in here, all on organic gardening, worm farming, growing microgreens, growing tomatoes. The list just goes on and on. And I'm going to leave a couple of videos here and here. There's a subscribe button here and here. I've got a lot more stuff coming up, and we've also got the outdoor urban worm farm project series going on. So hopefully you're going to watch that. And I'm trying to convince Karen to be involved in a live series. What do you think, guys? Would you like to see that? But for now, let me know in the comments box down below.